welcome to the What the What podcast. It's the podcast where we tell you what's nerdy, what's popping with culture, what's giving us all the nostalgic feels, and what's there to geek out about, past, present, and future. It's all the what's in one place. I'm Ashby Brain. We have Eric Creech, and that's Kyle Whitley. Welcome.
Yeah! Heck yeah.
Third time's the charm, ladies and gentlemen. If you were, obviously you're not aware because you're not going to ever hear the first two times we did it, because our computer deleted this. But literally the first two times, Ashby's tried to do this from memory, and we had to help her both times, but she did it all by herself.
All by myself. Woo!
That is awesome, and we are so thankful that you are joining us for today's episode. And for joining us with the What podcast in general. Well, there's room for everyone.
That's right.
On the nice list. That's right.
Yes.
Today we are talking about Elf, but before we get to that, whether you're a cotton-headed ninny-muggin or maybe you sit on a throne of lies, we would ask that you please subscribe to us.
You
Every time.
Every single time. Please subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever it is you download your podcast from. And please rate and review us. How many stars do we accept, guys?
5.
5 stars only for our ratings and reviews. Please also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at What the What Media.
All one word.
And you can find us on Twitter at WTW_media. Make sure you also subscribe to us on YouTube by searching for What the What Media. Again, all one word.
Please.
We would love to have 100 subscribers by the end of the year.
Yes.
So then we can tell you to search for us by going to youtube.com/whatthewhatmedia.
Yes.
But I digress.
All
one word. You can find some really cool things like there, like our podcast, but also some YouTube exclusives like Carpool Karaoke, and at this point, Carpool Karaoke featuring Hamilton songs. And maybe even for the Christmas season, we'll do a Christmas version of Carpool Karaoke.
Oh, so fun.
Carpool Karaoke Christmas, Carpool Karaoke Christmas. Are y'all down?
Absolutely.
I'm down. There's not
the entire NSYNC Christmas album. From
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Also,
Day 2, Mariah Carey.
I don't want a lot for Christmas. Okay. Please.
Snap.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Ashby's been practicing.
She was waiting for this.
Yes.
She nailed it. Well, definitely didn't blow it. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode or one of the approximately 73 other What the What episodes in our, please share this with a friend. We want to grow the show, especially as we go into the 2021 year. We want to have lots of listeners because we enjoy it and we think you would enjoy it too. So please share it with your friends. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we are taking a deep dive into the movie Elf, which came out in 2003 and is starring Will Ferrell, Jon Favreau, and a bunch of other people who I forgot. Yep, so many people. Zoe Deschanel. Yep, that's her name. Here is your spoiler warning for today's episode. While Elf is our primary focus, we will be going deep into all things involving Santa and reindeer and the North Pole.
Yep.
The entire mythos of, am I saying mythos correctly?
Mythos.
I've heard it both ways. The entire mythology of Santa Claus. So parents, if you're listening to this with your child,
don't forget to put out the cookies.
The cookies.
Yeah.
And other things. We may be spoiling this movie and other things. So please beware.
Right.
So yeah. All right. That took us 4 minutes. Okay. In our previous attempts, we were bordering on 9 and 12 minutes, respectively.
The computer's just like,
our computer's like, just let's get to it, guys. So this is the place where we're going to offer up a brief refresher on what actually happened in the film. Now, Kyle.
Yes.
You have had one shot at this.
Yes. I'm not throwing away my shot.
Are you ready for your attempt at a second go at this where you can recap this movie?
Yes.
All right. Well, Kyle, I'm going to move the microphone closer to your face. And it's going to get tangled up in my feet.
Okay.
Take it away, buddy. Tell us what actually happened in this film.
Buddy the Elf is in an orphanage. He climbs into a bag. Turns out he's at the North Pole. He is now an elf. Bob Newhart retires from his television show to raise Buddy for the next 30 years. The boss from the Mary Tyler Moore Show decided that he wanted to be Santa Claus, so he retired a long time ago. Santa Claus now, Buddy. Buddy the Elf. Turns out he is 6 foot some odd human and is not a good elf. So thankfully, all the elves and other people are very cheerful and helpful and nice to him, though. He realizes he's not an elf, realizes his dad is still alive. His dad is in New York City, never knew he existed.
New York, you can be a new man.
Sure. And then he works at the new Empire State Building, which is the same as the old one. I just said new for no reason. And so he lives there, but he doesn't live there, he works there. He goes to find his dad. His dad doesn't believe him, thinks he's a singing gram. What is it? Christmas gram. Turns out he's not. His dad finally, over multiple times and multiple conversations of getting thrown out of the Empire State Building, realizes he actually is his son. So Buddy moves in with him, his wife, and his son. So Buddy has a family now beyond just Bob Newhart. Lives there, begins to understand real life. Goes to a mall, meets a beautiful, wonderful, amazing singing lady who he has a crush on for the first time ever in his entire life, because women are very plentiful at the North Pole. And so, yes, it's cold outside. They sing in the shower. Not as you would think. One sings there, the other sings here. Surprise, he hits the lockers in the bathroom. Anyway, keep moving forward. They begin to have a relationship. Santa Claus comes to town. No longer does Christmas cheer cover the flight of the reindeer and the sleigh. They need a rocket, kind of how Buzz Lightyear needed one. They didn't blow up, not today. But they need Christmas cheer. Buddy and them help. They get on television. Ta-da! Christmas cheer brings it home once again. Rocket helps kind of fill it out a little bit. They fly on their way. Buddy gets married, has a kid, and goes back to visit his great dad, Bob Newhart.
Very good job.
Yeah.
I left out a lot of things.
No,
You have to go watch it
That's pretty
yourself.
good. That's
It
pretty
was
good.
really good. You know what the best way to spread Christmas cheer is, right?
Sing loud for all to hear.
That's right.
Yes.
So, before we...
I thought of Eric every time they said that quote.
Really? I can
Yeah.
see that. That's how he lives his life.
Yeah.
Literally.
One song at a time.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like the Vin Diesel version of living his life a quarter mile at a time. It's just mine's a song at a
Right.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so before we got on the air the first time, Ashby revealed something that was deeply
It wasn't a
unsettling.
deep dive.
It
was
was a deep stab to our heart.
It was almost like she cornered us in the bathroom with a knife for dating an ex-boyfriend or something.
Yeah, that's a random story and anecdote we won't get into.
That's a very specific metaphor.
Very specific metaphor. That has no relation to this story at all.
Metaphors don't go over
Absolutely
my
no
head.
relation
I
to
would
me or
catch-
my life at all.
Jumping into our 10 questions, Ashby, I'm going to ask you first so you can break our listeners' hearts.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you like this film?
No.
It's horrible.
Why?
Christmas is ruined for all the children.
You're the AT&T of people, Ashby. Oh,
That's the nicest thing anyway. I'm just
you're the opposite of Batman.
Thank you.
Wait, that's a compliment to her. I forgot.
So,
She was born in the 80s. She still uses her phone as a phone. All right.
here's the thing. I didn't realize until I went to watch this movie that I've never actually seen this movie all the way through. I think I've just experienced it through pop culture. Like when you know, something is sort of in the cultural zeitgeist. I haven't used that one in a while. Then you just sort of assume that you've seen it because you know the scenes and the quotes and you know who's in it. And I was like, oh, I've seen it. And then I realized, no, I don't really think I've actually ever seen this movie. And it was enjoyable to watch, but I am a huge Christmas freak. I love Christmas. And there are about 20 other Christmas movies that I just enjoy more than I enjoy this movie. I didn't really get the hype when it came out. I still don't necessarily get the hype, but what my decision on not liking this movie stems from is a very personal thing that I understand does not apply to everyone. And
You don't like Will Ferrell.
And that is that I do not like Will Ferrell in certain situations. So there are only a few Will Ferrell movies that I really like, and so I don't appreciate a lot of his type of comedy. Like I just don't.
Fair. There's a lot of his stuff I don't like either.
It makes me like deeply uncomfortable.
That's fair.
So I
ones do you
like
like?
Anchorman,
Okay.
and I like Blades of Glory, and that's it.
You don't like Talladega
Nights?
I like Talladega Nights, okay. But what I love about Talladega Nights is like I love Molly Shannon. Like I love the other characters in Talladega Nights. You know, like it's not like that movie's enjoyable for me aside from the fact that Will Ferrell's in it. And I have tried to watch some of his other movies, and I can't. Like Step Brother Anyway.
That's crazy.
So I just don't, there's just certain, I just don't, there's something to me about comedy where what's funny is that there's a character who's not in on the joke and they're being made fun of. So, like, I don't like comedy that makes someone the butt of a joke for not getting something that's, like, a cultural norm. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the humor in this movie comes from the fact that, like, Buddy is basically a fish out of water. And we get to watch him try to fit into the human world. And, like, that kind of comedy isn't funny to me. It just makes me upset. So
that's fair.
So I just.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think it is because you're not. You're entitled to your opinion.
He's saying you're wrong.
No.
I'll
That's
translate.
kind of what I'm hearing.
No. In my mind, though, like, I understand that, but I feel like in this movie too, it's not necessarily making fun of him as in some. He's not initially getting bullied. Like,
Right.
it's funny like things, but there's not like people are treating him like crap or anything else. Like, he's still well, except for like maybe his dad.
Right.
But like everybody else,
except for James Caan.
yes, which you would expect him to be that way. Everybody else, at least is part of his life, or doesn't look down on him or go out of their way to continue to make fun of him. Like even his boss at the department store just has no idea. Like. What it is.
Well, but also grown adults acting like children also makes me deeply uncomfortable, which is probably why I don't like this movie and I don't like Step Brother, because
you don't like hanging out with us at all.
Turns out
these are deep shots at us.
Yes.
It turns out this whole episode is about me admitting through a movie how deeply uncomfortable you two make me.
She's like, stop acting like a child. We're not acting.
Joke's on you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just don't.
Doesn't mean we're not adults.
So when I watched Step Brother and everyone thought it was so funny, and there are really funny parts of that movie, the whole time I just tried to imagine being a parent and having an adult child act like that, and it wasn't funny. It was just like horrifying and upsetting, and just like I would probably kill that child. It's just like, be an adult. Like, you are an adult, act like it. And it's so hard for me to get over that hump to see the humor in it.
Right.
And so so
full disclosure,
I don't like this movie.
I didn't like Step Brothers either.
Yeah, so that, I mean, at least I'm not alone in that. And
Will Ferrell is very much hit or miss for me.
I'm alone in that.
Like, I don't know. There's, like you said, a lot of his stuff is just very, I don't know. Like I said, it's hit or miss.
Right.
He has about a 50-50 shot of hitting or missing. I remember being very excited when he was going to guest on The Office, and he very much missed on that.
Yeah.
Replacing.
And to be fair, this isn't like a pick on Will Ferrell thing. There are other really good comedians that I enjoy watching in certain situations, and then in other situations, I come across this same wall of like the uncanny valley almost of comedy. Like Adam Sandler, I can't watch some of his stuff.
Adam Sandler's that way.
Sandler, where some of his stuff, a lot of his more current stuff is very miss.
Right.
His older stuff is very hit, but it's
right.
But a part of it's the time period too.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't grow up loving like
stupid Adam Sandler stuff, then you probably won't love it now.
No, like you wouldn't sit down and watch Happy Gilmore now and probably feel the same way, or Big Daddy. Like,
I don't like Big Daddy at all.
If you've never seen it at all, and then you sit down and watch it, especially right now,
right?
Probably not. No, don't even I feel like I started going to movies about the time that Adam Sandler was making it. So for me, it was just like, this is funny and I like this.
51st Dates is one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time.
Like, Erica loves Adam Sandler,
if
but her
you
mom
take out
hates
the Wallers throwing up on the assistant.
Erica's mom hates Adam Sandler.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that's the whole point of comedy, right? Is like you get to find the comedy that works for you.
Yeah, your niche comedy.
It's like I love Robin Williams, and like for me, I like him enough that I can literally watch any Robin Williams movie and enjoy it. But the same way, some people just don't like, and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say with Will Ferrell, and this is not again a Will Ferrell episode, but we're talking about him. His cameo in Wedding Crashers, still one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
True. And I love Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers great.
Yeah.
When are we doing a Wedding Crashers slide?
Oh, man.
We gotta get the rating out for that one.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Mom! The Meatloaf!
Yeah.
Tyler, you like this movie?
Yes, I love this movie.
I love this movie too. It's a top 5 Christmas film for me. I don't mean that in the Kyle kind of way. I mean that in
an actual sense.
In the actual sense.
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there.
It's really lovely to me. I didn't actually watch it when it came out in 2003. First time I actually saw it was at Joe Davis's house about 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh wow!
So I missed it for a good 10 years, and I don't know how and I don't know why, but I fell in love with it the moment I saw it.
Nice.
I don't know if I saw it when it came out or not. I don't remember exactly when I saw it.
Like, I remember my brother having the DVD, and I remember him watching it, but I was like, no, I'm just gonna go to my room and do whatever.
I mean,
but I just, as someone who, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, because I know when it comes to Christmas, and Kyle rags on me about this, I can seem like a little bit of a Grinch or a little bit of a Scrooge, where I don't decorate, I don't put up trees. I really do love Christmas, and I love the Christmas season. I love the meaning behind things that come with Christmas, where you're supposed to spend it with family. I love giving presents. I don't like getting them so much because I feel bad that people spend their money on me. But I love spending money on other people. Like, by the way, y'all both you get a present from me.
You realize the disconnect there, right?
Yes.
You know,
you want to explain it to him?
That you are worthy of receiving presents because that gives someone the same feeling that you get when you give presents.
We've had a breakthrough today.
Would you like to lay down on the couch?
Let's say, how much do y'all charge?
That one was free.
That's just a taste of what could happen.
Like Kyle usually gets a mug from every year. You'll get something this year because you're on the what team. So congratulations. But that present giving, that's not just Christmas though. That's year round.
That's true. I have noticed that you guys like to give gifts year round.
I give you got a mug, right?
I'm buying a house next year. Don't expect many gifts.
That's fair. That's fair.
Invite us over.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I mean, watching this movie gets me in that Christmassy spirit where, like, I'm just excited for the season.
Absolutely.
It gets me hyped up. And, this movie's kind of like a hype man for me. So,
it was a little weird, too, because we're recording this early. If you're listening to it now, obviously, it's more closer to Christmas.
Right.
We're recording this before Halloween.
Erica watched it with me last night to recap on everything, and she was like, it's weird that we were literally watching horror movies yesterday.
It's 2020, and if there was ever a time to mix up your horror movies and your Christmas movies...
But I mean, don't get me wrong.
Watch The Nightmare Before Christmas and you get the best of both worlds.
This isn't the first time I've watched Elf this year. Like, I've watched it when Disney Plus came out and had it on there. Because it was on there, I feel like, at one point.
There are so many other Christmas movies that I enjoy that get me hype.
Well, we'll get into those. Yep.
Yeah,
so what are some of your favorite scenes from this movie that you don't like?
What can you tolerate, Ashby?
So, do you want to combine, like, scenes and quotes?
That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 36 of them.
So,
you do, or
so if there's one thing I took away from this, if there's one thing that I took away from this movie that I can apply and do try to apply to my everyday life, it is treat every day like Christmas.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. Like, I feel like one of the reasons that I'm so, like, crazy about Christmas is the feeling that you carry with you for the Christmas season. And wouldn't it be nice if, like, we could have that all year round? Like, the warmth that you feel towards people and the idea of, like, getting to give gifts and the decoration and the lights and, like, how excited children are and to watch that and experience the season through them. And so that was definitely one of my favorite quotes. And then my other favorite quote, which was one of my favorite scenes, is when he takes him to the doctor to get his finger pricked. And Will Ferrell does an amazing job of acting like a child, because it's just like when he's trying to distract him, he's like, sit still, he wants to sit a different way, and then he's like, hold out your hand, and he's just like distracting him, and then he breaks his finger and he's like, ow!
Yep.
And then he's sitting with that little girl, and she's like, my finger has a heartbeat. It's like, that is a perfect childlike way to describe what having your finger pricked feels like.
Yes.
Where you can feel it like pulsing because it hurts, And I was like, oh, that is just beautiful. I love it so much. And then I think, the Jack in the Box scene was hilarious, and it made me think, whoever thought it was a good idea to give a child a Jack in the Box as a toy? Like, who invented that as a toy?
It made me think about it because I had one.
Because it scares him over and over again, and that was supposed to be fun. Like, you're terrifying children. That's a terrifying toy. Anyway, that just made me think of it. But I love how they make it, like, instead of making toys, they make it his job to do like product review almost, like what testing out. So he just has to do it over and over again, and he never gets used to it. Every time he's like, ah, and then he puts it aside, and then he does it again, and it jumps. He's like, ah, and then he puts it aside. Oh man!
I think you enjoyed this movie a lot more.
I'm telling you, it was enjoyable to watch. Will Ferrell, man, I can't do it.
For the longest time after I watched this movie, I think my Facebook profile or stuff was just some combination of Bud the Elf, what's your favorite color? As he answers the phone.
Yes.
As we said earlier, there's room for everyone on the nice list. This is on my shirt, and I have a little thing that a youth group member made for me one year in 2016. It says, I just like to smile. Smiling is my favorite. Now, that was something that I enjoyed. As 2020, I don't like to enjoy it as much.
I mean, who among us?
But yeah, I love that quote as well. Of course, his like fangirl reaction when he finds out that Santa's coming.
Oh yeah,
Santa!
I know him.
Oh, good stuff. The scene where Zoe.
There's no two ways about
Deschanel.
that. She's famous.
And Buddy, where Zoe is taking a shower and singing, and Buddy's just kind of sitting outside, singing along. I thought that was really sweet, if not a little creepy, but I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I like how they played at least the innocent side of it, where like when all of a sudden he realized it was a weird thing, then all of a sudden like he closes his eyes
and runs into the lockers.
Yeah, it wasn't
because he would have no concept for like why that would be inappropriate, you know. So.
And of course, we elves try to stick to the four main food groups.
Right.
Candy.
Yep.
Candy canes.
Yes.
Candy corns.
Totally separate.
And syrup.
Yeah. Isn't there a scene where he's like, syrup has sugar in it?
Yes. I love sugar.
Oh, and of course, how'd you sleep? Great, I got a full 40 minutes. I'm like, I get that.
Right, for real.
I can relate.
I feel like some of my favorite stuff is more where it just relates to me. Like the mall scene, where he's like just down in the mall at a different section. And then he goes up to the toy store area of the mall. Just reminds me of being a child, like going Christmas shopping with my parents, like being in the mall, like being in like a Sears or a JCPenney or whatever, where they have all these Christmas decorations everywhere, and just this Christmas season of it's not the crazy rush where everybody's killing each other. It's literally just we went on a random Saturday and we're just spending time like picking up gifts, and so we're picking up these things. But that, and I always wanted to work in a toy store. So whenever he was up there, it was amazing. Whenever he was at the North Pole, I also love just how they did the North Pole, like how it's decorated, how it's done, how they did all the sizing of everything.
It's like a mix of claymation and like real life, which was interesting.
And that was especially like I know is it Community does it on there for a couple episodes, or at least one or two, but
they do a claymation episode. Yes.
Yeah,
nice.
And so. But you didn't see that often back then, like a mixture in something like this, especially real, where it's same world, where you're talking to it.
Right.
So all of that, just how they pulled all that together. In the same way, too, the whole New York scenes, like when they go out on their first date and they're walking around New York, seeing Christmas trees, like he's innocently taking her to the world's greatest coffee place, and then he likes this one tree, and she's like, no, you haven't seen the real tree, let me take you here. So all that stuff, like mine aren't even like the crazy funny stuff. There's tons of it, but just for me, like I love those scenes. It made me wonder: have you ever been to New York at Christmas time?
I've never been to New York at all.
I figured Ashby has, if any.
Yes. So sort of. I've never been in New York on actual Christmas time, but they keep Rockefeller Center up for a while, and I had to go on a business trip early January one year, and so I got to go ice skating at Rockefeller Center, and they still had the decorations up. So pretty close enough.
Well, I figured out of the three, you travel the most with stuff, so you probably would have. So what is you got really excited?
I have more quotes.
Well, I've got
Nice.
quotes, but yeah, go for it.
So good news.
Saw a dog
Saw
today.
a dog today.
I mean, that is very relatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that one. Santa, when he's telling Buddy about New York. Well, there are some things you should know about New York. First off, if you see gum on the street, leave it there. It isn't free candy. Second, there are like 30 Ray's pizzas. They all claim to be the original, but the real one's on the 11th. And if you see a sign that says Peep Show, that doesn't mean they're letting you look at the new toys before Christmas.
For real.
And of course, I think we mentioned this earlier when he sees the sign for the world's best cup of coffee. You did it! Congratulations! World's best cup of coffee. Great job, everyone. It's great to be here.
Then he looks at the one random guy that's staring back at the table.
You're right.
Hi.
Right.
Oh, and,
Son of a nutcracker!
Yes. I'm sorry I ruined your lives and crammed 11 cookies into the VCR.
One that I like that we randomly talk about at work for it's Francisco.
Yeah, he's like, it's
That's
so
so fun
fun
to
to
say.
say.
Francisco. Oh, and you know the way he's describing, I can't even remember her character name, but Zoe.
Zoe Deschanel,
Yeah,
she's Jovi.
Jovi, okay. He's like, I think you're really beautiful, and I feel really warm when I'm around you, and my tongue swells up. So, do you want to eat food? It's like that's what every woman wants to hear, buddy.
That's right.
Well, I just had
That's
my
right.
lunch, but I'm free Thursday. Alright, what worked the best? So what were you able to stomach, Ashby?
Zoe Deschanel has the voice of an angel.
She does, doesn't she?
Bob Newhart was amazing. I totally see him as a head elf. Like, I get it, 100%. That's about it. That's
One thing I put,
stopped.
and it goes against what you like, but Will Ferrell as his, I feel like he does a good job of portraying an innocent, childlike character.
Yes.
Because there would be other movies that would have a childlike character, and they would go perverted or some other random way. They would go out of their way to make it
Right.
like bad things or whatever. Versus that doesn't
Right.
really ever happen with him. He stays very innocent throughout this entire movie.
Yeah, no, I think if he
Like-
wasn't doing a bang up job, I wouldn't be so deeply uncomfortable. Like, I think
Yeah.
the fact that I don't like this movie is a testament to his acting. Because there are some scenes where it could have gone in the direction of pervy, and he plays it off as more of like a childlike innocence. Like when the sign for the teddies says
Yes.
for someone special, so he gives one to his dad
Yes.
for someone special, and you're just like, oh, you poor sweet innocent baby angel, like you did not know. And then the scene in the shower, where because she even confronts him later, and it was like, did you mean in the bathroom had anything to do with the fact that I was naked? And he was like, no, I just heard you singing. And like he plays it off so well.
Yeah.
Because you know that he's sincere. And
Yeah. How about you, sir?
What worked the best? I agree with Ashby that Zoe.
My God, I hope she listens to this someday.
Yes, Zoe Deschanel's character was really good. She has the voice of an angel. Ed Asner as Santa, I thought did a really good job. One of kind of an underrated Santa.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm getting too old for this job.
Yeah. Very gruff Santa, but a good Santa.
Yes.
Bob Newhart again as the elf was really good. I enjoyed a lot of Will Ferrell in this movie. This is one of those movies where I can actually stomach him and not just be cringy the entire time. I thought the relationship between him and his brother, I think was played by was it Kyle Gass?
No. Kyle Gass is the guy from Tenacious D. He's one of the characters, like the writers.
Yeah, I forgot who that little kid was. He looked familiar.
That's right. I don't know who the
I
kid
can't
was.
remember who. He looked a lot like the guy from the kid from the Santa Claus, Charlie.
Yeah.
He looked a lot like that, but it's not.
him. But I thought they had a sweet little relationship, little brotherly moment. The snowball scene, snowball fight scene was good.
Yeah, that was
I
really
did
sweet.
cringe a little bit whenever you had Peter Dinklage as as the publisher.
As the kid's author.
Yeah, and as and getting not made fun of because
Right.
he wasn't making fun of,
Right,
but,
right.
but his height was kind of played for laughs there.
Right.
And it's like I probably enjoyed it 7 years ago, 8 years ago
Right.
whenever I first saw this movie. I did not enjoy it as much this time watching it through.
Yeah.
So just kind of cringy there. That's one of my nitpicks, I guess. But yeah, I enjoyed a lot about this movie. I thought it's very quotable, and if y'all know me, I love things that are quotable because then I don't have to think of dialogue on my own. I can just quote something.
That's right.
So,
I didn't put any nitpicks sliding into that, just because there are things that I kind of saw and was like, well, that doesn't quite make sense for this, that, or other. But that was me kind of looking for things. And also at the same time, I feel like when you come to Christmas movies, like, you kind of judge them a little bit different than you do other movies where it's like, that's, we're not covering the plot here to be absolutely, loophole perfect or whatever. Like, there's things here. But for the most part, like, for instance, like, why didn't Santa Claus just fly Buddy to New York? Why did he just let him walk all the way to New York? Erica called that one out whenever we were watching.
And also, it doesn't seem possible that he didn't have any food or shelter or water. He just walked across Mount Everest or the Alps or some crap. Anyway,
it was cool to like see like parts of his tribe at least. They didn't just pop him up in New York, but there's stuff like that, random little things that honestly, like I say, I could sit there and nitpick to make reasons.
Yeah,
but
my random little thing, and maybe I just don't know how. I guess it really wasn't a mall. It was like a rip-off Macy's.
Yeah.
It was called like Gimbals.
Macy's or whatever.
Right.
Because Gimbals used to be a real place, I think, that was like against Macy's or whatever.
Right. So my thing was like, those places have locker rooms with showers for the employees. I don't think so.
I have a locker room and a shower for at my place of business.
That's true.
But you don't work in a mall.
It depends too. I guess like when was
you work in a zoo?
Don't I?
I guess it depends too when like that mall was made.
Have mercy.
Because it's probably not a current thing, but also if you think too, they're in New York, they're not in like Cary. So stuff could be different.
We're not in Johnston County where you just run home.
Right. I would like
to
fact check that. Sure. Yeah, that seemed a little like, oh, well, we need her to be singing in the shower and him be there, so we'll just put a shower in their place of work.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, that was my only nitpick.
Okay. What's next on our list, sir?
Do you have any questions about this movie that are left unanswered? My only thing was, why didn't Buddy walk from North Pole to New York?
I have one that I will leave off the air because it's a family show.
Okay, that's fair.
I can see that.
I had a random thought.
Okay.
Like, this was a random thought that just popped in my head.
Okay. So my random thought was the Central Park Rangers. Mm-hmm. There seemed to me to be some imagery with the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Like immediately when I saw them, that's what I thought of.
That is interesting.
So I thought that was really cool.
I guess I do have an unanswered question, and it's my only nitpick or unanswered question when it comes to a lot of Christmas movies.
Okay.
In all these Christmas movies where people don't believe in Santa.
Right.
But do they never ask questions about how presents end up under their tree the
next
morning?
Okay, that was one of my things.
Like, that was a nitpick I had with the Santa Claus. All these people who don't believe in Santa.
Right.
But all of a sudden the next morning there's a canoe there.
Right.
It's like, they're not going to question where this canoe comes from.
Right. Well, so, like, if your kid asks for a skateboard and you don't get him a skateboard, and the next day there's a skateboard under the tree.
Either that kid stole that skateboard.
The mom and dad are asking questions like, where'd that skateboard come from?
Either they're not talking.
Right.
That kid stole the skateboard. Someone broke in their house and gave it the kid a skateboard.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, that was my thing. When he started reading off the list of what the kids wanted, I was like, wait a second. Like, I feel like that's always sort of been. There's a lot of like ways that you can sort of get around the whole Santa thing in movies, but that's always bothered me. Like, at the end of the day, everything else aside, what you see versus what you don't see, what you believe versus what you don't believe, if Santa is actually delivering gifts, then, like, to be sure, there's a whole world full of parents being like, wait a second, and what about all these kids who, like, say, all I want is a pony? I'd have a lot of questions if I went in my living room and my 3-year-old was jumping up and down. There was a live pony in my living room on Christmas morning.
I don't think the pony ever happens.
Right.
But
I feel like there was a Christmas movie at some point in life that I remember watching.
I'm sure.
Where they tried to answer that question. Where Santa was like, well, obviously there's a limit to what I can give. Yeah. You know, like I can't give live animals. I can't get, like stuff like that.
I'm not a genie.
I think I think my thing too is I always took it as, and I guess it doesn't necessarily pan out, but if the parents don't believe and they're buying the kids gifts, then Santa just doesn't stop at that house, like, because I feel like there's a hierarchy there somewhat.
Right.
But there is the part too, because you do see in some movies where the parents look at it like, did you get that? And it's like, no.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they believe now, like,
Right.
there's that childlike hope back in them with that.
Right.
So
All I wanted was a wing whistle.
I did, yeah. And see, and he became.
Christmas came, no winning
No
whistle.
winning whistle. Yeah.
But it made me think too. I did have one
You
other
were
thought.
3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heartbroken.
I know.
There was one little nitpicker left, unanswered question. Is Buddy crawled into that bag. Santa came back with an empty bag except for a baby.
Right.
How did Santa not realize?
Didn't he not,
it?
like, stick his hand down in there and be like, oh, it's all gone, okay.
It's like, wait.
Right.
Oh, there's a child. Oh.
Yeah.
Also, how did a practically naked baby, like, live through all of that, like, getting tossed around in the back of that sleigh in the middle of the winter at night? You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to get real into it, that doesn't seem very realistic.
Maybe we shouldn't take a deep dive after all.
Yeah, maybe we should take
Well, that's what I thought.
a medium dive.
Well, that was my thought. Just
Like, maybe we should just, use the ladder and kind of gently get into the pool.
Right.
yeah. I'd say not even go there. Like
Don't even go into the deep end. Stay in the shallow end.
Yeah. Don't
like I
create
said,
ripples.
a lot of those things that like I put out there it's overthought. Where yes, it's a Christmas movie.
That's why we call them nitpicks.
Yes.
True.
True. So my next one was, where does this movie fall in your rankings of Christmas films? Now you said top 5.
Iron Man, there's Iron Man.
No.
Oh, wait a
Let's see,
minute.
there's
Christmas films.
all the Harry Potters, Die Hard, Lord of the Rings, because I watch them at Christmas. Home Alone 2, and then
Not
there's
Home Alone.
all the Santa Clauses, maybe even Home Alone 3 because it has Scarlett Johansson in it, and then what else? The Grinch, and then the animated Grinch, and then the other animated Grinch, and then I don't know, it's probably like 34.
34.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
in the top 50.
That's good though. Like for a movie you really care for, to be in the
Animated
top 50 is pretty
Rudolph,
good.
animated Little Drummer Boy.
Man.
Like we did. I'm glad Erica did it. At some point we had some Christmas movies. That's kind of her thing at Christmas. Like when everybody's like, "What do you want? What do you want?" She'll be like, "Well, I don't have this Christmas movie. Sure, like you get
Right.
that, and stuff like that." But for me, I said probably top 5, and I didn't do it in a Marvel way. Like I listed them out.
Oh, nice.
These
Look
actually,
at you.
these probably aren't in order, but at least it's hanging all
Okay,
floating in that top
okay.
5. But Home Alone 2, both together, Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, and then Elf is somewhere in the midst of it.
Okay,
Now that fights a lot of like traditional ones that I absolutely love too, but I think about at Christmas time which ones did I watch and repeat the most?
never seen Christmas Vacation.
It's not great.
That's your opinion.
Sorry, Kyle.
Also, don't like A Christmas Story because again, the dad makes me deeply
I've
uncomfortable.
never seen a Christmas Story.
Growing up for me, that was part of Christmas, like where
That's fair.
Where I couldn't sleep on Christmas Eve. I was that kid was so excited for the next day.
Right.
There was no hope in me sleeping at all.
Right.
So my entire night was watching Christmas Story on TBS all night long.
See, mine was curling up with like my grandmother who was always staying with us on Christmas Eve, and Oma, yeah,
Nice.
and reading Christmas books. So like
That's
reading
cool.
the Polar Express,
Yeah.
and then one year she got me this amazing Christmas book that I've since given to one of my friends' kids called Anti-Claus. And it's about this woman or this little girl who has an aunt called Anti-Claus, and Anti-Claus wears red all year round and lives in this really nice like penthouse in New York, and like it like it's really interesting. It's really hard to explain, but it's a great kids book if you get it for your children. So anyway, so we would curl up and read books.
That's cool though.
So like I remember watching, like we always watched the animated Rudolph like with my dad, because he's watched that movie every single year since it like premiered on CBS, like when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to him. So like but we just weren't in front of the television really on Christmas Eve. So like I missed a lot of Christmas movies.
And I take it back. It's a Wonderful Life has become one that I watch every year now.
See, I've never seen that either.
And it's one of those, it's a classic one, and I think it holds up. But same way, you've seen so many other Christmas stories that are based off of that one.
Right.
And it's one of those things that, like, they made a color version, but for me, I just like watching the old, like, black and white one.
Right.
It was one of those things at Christmas time, I remember specifically, I think it was after my dad had his stroke, that my mom was staying in the other room with him, like at our house. He was back home, and he had like his own special bed. My mom was sleeping on the couch beside him, and I was sleeping in their room because I'd moved back home from college or whatever. And it was around Christmas time, and I remember that was playing on TV in there, and I ended up like crying and watching it, like laying there and just being appreciative of life at this point,
right?
That's going on,
absolutely.
And so from there going forward, like it's something I have to watch every year. So that's one of my favorites. But same way, all the claymation ones, all of like Charlie Brown's Christmas, even like Polar Express now, and all of like the Muppets Christmas Carol, and like
can't do Muppets.
Yeah, see, I loved Muppets growing up. It's the same way.
Terrify me.
I don't know. There's tons of great ones, and I don't know. I think that's the cool part about Christmas. It's even though you may not enjoy them as much.
Yeah, there's so many options.
Se, you can just keep going, like, and watching tons and tons of them. And it's one of those things. It's a weird thing about Christmas that you're just so much in the spirit. It really doesn't have to be great. Like, that's how Hallmark exceeds and does amazing things.
The Santa Claus franchise wasn't winning any Oscars.
No, but it's something.
It's so enjoyable.
It's the same way. Like, I've got to go back. Like, these other ones barely edged out Santa Claus. Like,
my dad spent years after we watched the first Santa Claus movie quoting when they're like they've delivered all the presents and he still thinks he's having some major break from reality, some delusion, and he's like he does like the ho 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 Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night. He's like, and when I wake up I'm getting a casket.
How about you, Eric?
All right, so I think my hierarchy is based very similar to what I rewatch every year.
Yeah.
I'm not including made-for-TV movies in this.
That's fair.
Because I thought they have their own category.
Or episodes, obviously, of TV shows.
Episodes.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of those.
I do too, yeah.
It would have to be in no particular order. Home Alone and Home Alone 2. The Santa Claus 1. Elf. 4 Christmases.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I've never seen 4 Christmases.
It's fun.
And I've also never seen The Holiday or Love Actually.
You haven't seen Love Actually?
No, I'm behind on some
I was going to mention
stuff,
Love Actually as like an honorable mention because it takes place around
maybe
Christmas
this year will
time.
be the year that I watch it.
You should.
Didn't you have it on our list to watch or to do a podcast?
Yeah, because then I said if we did it, then I would actually watch it.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting. Anyway.
I mean, it's good. So, but of course, the Rudolph, Frosty, Charlie Brown stuff's in there. The Grinch movies, all 3 of them, which we will talk about, where we have talked about already at this point. If you're listening to the podcast, this podcast is being filmed in the past, but we'll reference the future.
Where are we in time? You don't know.
Exactly. But yeah,
I don't even.
But Elf is a top 5 movie because it's something I have to watch every year.
Sure.
So I would usually watch Home Alone 1 and 2 and Santa Claus first, and then I'll probably jump into Elf after that. So
random quick story because I don't want to go way off, but
because Ashby's got someone to be in 34 minutes.
Yes,
that's right.
Home Alone. It's funny. The first time I remember going seeing Home Alone was a family in theaters, and we were outside playing basketball. And I don't know why my parents ever thought it was an amazing idea to put a basketball goal above a garage door that had glass windows in it. But my sister and I were out there playing, waiting for my mom and dad to come out and get ready to go to the movies, and we busted the window out in that.
Ooh.
And had to leave to go to the movies. Second one, we were going to see Home Alone 2 outside. My sister, like my mom, I think she had her cleats or something from soccer, and my mom was like, you need to clean them out or do something. Maybe it was soccer or softball or something. But either way, she's like, you need to take these out. And my sister goes, opens the door, has both shoes like by the shoestrings, and throws it. As she lets go, they boomerang back right into the window through the laundry room to where my mom's standing at. Once again, broken window, Home Alone 2.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. Random section. Anything you want to add? Favorite theory, rabbit hole necessarily. I don't think you have necessarily those, but I did note that like Jon Favreau whatever is becoming one of my favorite directors. Like realizing he directs a lot of things that I really like.
He's sort of just like quietly become one of the best directors in Hollywood.
Yes.
Over the last like 20 years.
Well, it's like Hunter mentioned Chef the other night, and like or other day. I totally recommend if you haven't seen Chef to watch Chef. And then Netflix has a whole series where it's like the Chef Show or whatever.
Right.
Where like they go around and like they've done it like 3 seasons or some odd now. And it's just them cooking or hanging out. First, it was more so talking about the show and things they cooked.
Right.
And recooking versus now they go visit famous people and cook with them. And do things. But
to think he got his start or one of his earliest roles on Friends in season 3 is because billionaire boyfriend who had to fight in the UFC.
Hilarious. hilarious.
She thought she was getting a ring. In fact, it was a fighting ring.
Wow.
Anyway, he had to get a ring designer for that. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
John Favreau, some good stuff there. Obviously, he did the first 2 Iron Man movies. He did the Lion King.
He plays Happy Hogan.
This past or last summer, the Lion King reboot.
And he's the doctor in this movie.
Yeah.
That does the blood test.
And he the
Little cameo.
Mandalorian,
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah, crazy.
lots of quality stuff from John Favreau. So.
Yeah, my only random thing was the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Very nice.
But I do have 2 fun facts.
Awesome. Real quick, before we get there,
2.
where is the moment you geeked out the most?
Oh, I know. I can tell you.
Yeah.
And this is, again, just because I don't necessarily like this movie doesn't mean I can't admit that it was enjoyable to watch
Sure.
at parts. It was a real roller coaster of emotions for me.
Mm-hmm.
I cried when everyone started singing at the
Yes,
end.
not the same.
That's mine. Yes.
Yeah, not to not give Elf its due, but anytime a group of people
Yes.
sing together, more than likely I will start crying. So it wasn't necessarily this movie or even the Christmas spirit. I just can't not cry when people do stuff like that together.
Yeah.
So that was my moment where I was like, oh, here it comes.
That like embodies like the Christmas spirit to me. It's like the same way you talked earlier about like caring about other people more. Like you know, it's just that natural thing for people to care and be more willing to love people like during this time. And it's always too where she, you know, knowing now that you know she's a famous singer, but at that point, you know, maybe not so much, but you knew she could sing.
Right.
But
the character didn't like singing in public.
and she overcomes that to sing, knowing this is the only way to help this.
Right.
And then for everybody to join in. I honestly left this blank for a long time last night watching it. And I was like, I'll just have to re-look at things. Maybe I've just missed something. And then this scene happened. I was like, that's totally, like, it's the highlight of the movie for me.
Also, a close second for me was when he shows her the Christmas tree in the window about, like, how big it is. And you see her kind of have this moment where she's like, oh, I bet I can show him something. And she takes him to Rockefeller Center. And just the look on his face, like, I appreciated that because I remember seeing that tree lit up for the first time in person. And you do have this moment where you're just like, this is amazing. You know, it's really cool.
I thought I had like a small moment like that when we were at Disney last year on Christmas time. And our hotel, we stayed at the Animal Kingdom Hotel or whatever, the lodge. And there's this giant tree in the middle of the lodge that goes all the way up to the ceiling, like through the second floor and everything. And it's just all decorated with stuff.
Nice.
And it was kind of cool, whatever, during the day, it's like whatever. But at nighttime, they still left the tree on.
Nice.
So as you walked out of your door, like if you were just happened to be out there late at night, that tree was just still fully lit up, glowing on everything at that point. So just kind of that feel.
It's cool.
Who won the movie?
I said Buddy's dad.
Scott Conn, that's what I was about to say. Yeah. Buddy's dad.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Said he's a man without Christmas cheer. He spends very little time with his family. And when he does, he's still not a very happy camper. After all this with Buddy, his life has changed. With that, so the lives of his wife and his son and Buddy. Like his whole life, like he quits his job versus before. I don't even know. He just doesn't ever seem like a happy person,
Right.
at all. And you could tell by like the reaction when he was like, "I got business. I gotta go do." Like
Right.
at the dinner table, there wasn't some big reaction. Like you know that's normal.
Right. Exactly.
So
All right, well, let's pass through the 7 levels of the candy cane bars, through the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops, and then let's walk through the length tunnel as we get to our favorite fun facts and observations about this movie. We're going to do 2 apiece. And Ashby, would you like to go first?
Yes. Apparently, Jim Carrey was almost Buddy the Elf.
Shocking.
I just don't think it would work.
Shocking.
I love Jim Carrey. Like, talk
Yeah.
about a comedian that does work for me in almost everything he
It's
does.
the same way. Like some people
Jim
can't
Carrey.
stand him, but I love
Jim Carrey.
Like, I think the thing about that fact that shocked me the most was the spec script for this emerged in 1993, which was
Wow.
when Carrey was, before he was doing Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Right.
He was attached to front that Christmas film.
Right.
But it took 10 years to
That's
go
crazy.
into production.
I just can't see him pulling this off. You know?
He's like, he does a great like crazy personality, but
Right.
like being the childlike
Right.
character.
But yeah, the
He's got a vibe in
childlike,
Yeah.
you know, is what I think I can't see him pulling off. You know,
Yeah.
like to make the character funny, no problem.
He would, I think
But
he
to
would
keep
employ
that
a lot
innocence-
more physical comedy
Yes.
than
Yeah.
is needed for this role.
Right. Yeah.
So. Kyle, number 2.
One of mine, I almost said it earlier, but it was one of your favorite things, Ashby, was the clowns that pop out of the box.
Yeah, the Jack in the Box.
Yeah.
Actually, Jon Favreau have those, they're remote controlled. So Will Ferrell had no idea when they were going to pop. Jon Favreau was sitting off set as he was going, hit a button and made them pop out.
Nice.
So that's why all those reactions seem very real.
Genuine? That's
it's
awesome.
because he was doing that off the side.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, my number 3 here, Baby Buddy was fired. Their kids who played the baby, the ones who were initially tagged for the role, were fired. To play the bubbly baby version of the titular elf, Favreau had initially cast twin boys whose blonde curly hair made them great little doubles for the mop-topped Ferrell. However, the production ran into a problem and the boys couldn't perform. Instead of smiling and crawling as needed, they cried relentlessly.
Oh no.
So, to replace them, brunette triplet girls were brought in who were far perkier and more playful, and thereby ready for their close-up.
There you go.
I think those kids are like 17 or 18 now.
I don't want to think about it, thanks.
Number 4, Ashby.
There is no Elf 2, allegedly, because Ferrell and Favreau dislike one another so much. Yeah.
That's a shame.
So apparently they did not get along, and Will Ferrell put it as like a contractual stipulation that if he did a second one, it would be with a different director.
He did an interview too.
So.
Will Ferrell did in like
More
2013.
Yeah.
But he was offered like $29 million to do it, and he said that he just thinks it would look slightly pathetic if I tried to squeeze back in elf tights again, Buddy the middle-aged elf.
I mean,
I'm sure that's partly like
right.
That's an easier excuse in an interview to say.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, this isn't. I mean, it is gossip, but it's not necessarily hearsay because that information came from Scott Conn, who was asked. Sorry, James Conn. Scott Conn is his son. I watched like every episode of Hawaii Five-0, so I'm more into Scott Conn than James Conn. But James Conn was interviewed about it and was asked like, will there be an Elf 2? And he was like, I would totally be down for it. It'd be nice to say that I finally landed a franchise because apparently Scott Conn's never done. I mean, James Conn's never done a sequel, which is interesting. And I think he said like something funny about like residuals or whatever. But he said, it'll probably never happen because, I think that the studio is pretty married to having the same director. And Will Ferrell said he's not going to do it if Jon Favreau directs. They didn't get along. And so like it came from James Conn.
Sure.
So that's pretty a legitimate source.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a radio show, so it was a direct quote.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
That's big news. All right, number 5.
This one I really like because it's something I just like in movies in general. But his director Jon Favreau favored practical effects instead of CGI, and that's something that I really like in movies anyway.
Right.
Like, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not against CGI. We literally did Guardians of the Galaxy not long ago, and it's full of CGI. And
I think if you look at Iron Man's that he directed, like you'll see that they did as much as they could with actual like suits and costuming and like before they went into and stunts and stuff before they went into using just CGI.
And my biggest thing is I always relate to like Ninja Turtles. Like you take the 1990s Ninja Turtles, and there's yet to be a movie that looked as good. Like,
right.
So even with all the CGI in the world, where they've made recent Ninja Turtle movies that make them look ridiculous, versus what Jim Henson and his company was able to do with practical effects and costumes.
Well, I mean, look at how well Jurassic Park holds up.
Yeah.
A lot of that wasn't CGI.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like people in raptor suits and a lot of like animatronics and like
that
robot
was the first
work.
time CGI was like used in a huge way like that, and they did a great job, but it wasn't overdone.
But it still was up 25 years later.
Right.
And it was stuck in my brain though watching this because like when Bob Newhart sits on the sleigh, the sleigh engulfs him.
Right.
But in my mind, I had to look at that and imagine like that sleigh must be giant,
right?
Like for him to be, and then my mind automatically goes, well, it could just be green screen and he's just sitting on a block, but it's like that literally like if it is, it's amazing, but it really looks like he's sitting in a giant sleigh. And they said that they had to make 2 sets, one that was a bigger set to make all the elves look smaller, and one that was a smaller set to make Will Ferrell look giant. Yeah. And they were able to morph it together with the lights.
You can also use perspective. Yes. So they did that in a lot of Lord of the Rings movies, where Sir Ian McKellen would sit, like up further, and Elijah Wood would sit further back, and it would look like they were two characters sitting facing one another, but they would just be talking like you would talk to someone across from you, and it would make it look like they were having a conversation. Sure. But he would look like a hobbit, and he would look like a human in size because of perspective.
Yeah. I just love stuff like that, like where it's not overly done. It just feels there's a magic to it where it's like I have no clue they're doing this,
right?
But it's happening.
Super cool, yeah.
All right, number 6 for me then. Buddy was bullied in early versions of the draft. In first drafts of the script, Buddy's decision to seek out his dad was in part because he was being hassled by the other elves for being different. But Jon Favreau pushed to take out this element. He preferred to keep the North Pole characters warm, even when Buddy bugs them. From the DVD commentary, Favreau says it explained why Buddy was doing all these good things in New York if he grew up in a world where everyone was so sweet, even when he's obviously screwing everything up and doesn't fit in at all. So
Nice.
I liked that addition myself.
Cool.
We have one more section, our social media shout-outs. So
we do. I was just pulling up, make sure I didn't miss any.
Yeah, I was going to look and make sure, because I posted something on Twitter.
Chris Rhodes said, I saw this in theater and is now my favorite. We watch it at least once during Christmas. There are too many quotes, but these are my favorites. Buddy, I'm here with my dad and we've never met, and he wants me to sing him a song, and I was adopted, but you didn't know I was born, so here I am now.
That made me so uncomfortable, that
Daddy,
scene.
guess what? I love you. I love you. Love you.
Oh!
That's Natasha Bedingfield impression there.
Here my dad, and we never met. I guess he typed it twice.
He typed it twice, yeah.
He copied it or whatever. He said, I still sing that I love you, I love you, I love you in the same way to my son. Crazy. Erica texted that to me yesterday and had no idea we were doing it.
That's so funny.
He also said, and the whole South Pole elf thing, he said, just the movie was an instant classic in my opinion. Christopher B. Highfield said, that became a classic Christmas movie from the start, unlike some other movies that take time or are not as universally enjoyed by most people. Emily Bailey Clark says,
he's Chelsea's husband, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah.
I've never met him. I've seen him.
He loves Christmas.
Nice.
Like me, so.
Very nice.
And he loves nerdy stuff. Chelsea basically married a male version of me.
Well,
Makes sense.
if you couldn't do it, might as well.
Exactly.
Emily Bailey Clark is it's her sugar and syrup. Devon Jenny Varnum says, I just like to smile. Smiling is my favorite.
Yeah.
Hunter jumped in. Top fan. Well, actually, let me rephrase. Top fan, Hunter Batten.
And former guest host of the show.
Yes.
Yes.
Check out his Guardians of the Galaxy episode, which dropped in the last week in October, which technically hasn't happened as of this recording.
Right.
I would like
Again,
to see.
when are we?
I would like to see a video of Hunter's reaction just as he listens to Ashby talking, like in this episode, because it makes his top 3.
Oh, really?
He says Home Alone,
He wouldn't be surprised.
The Santa Claus, Elf, A Christmas Story, any Grinch movie, Christmas Vacation, Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is another I didn't mention, Bad Santa, Claus, which is on Netflix. If you hadn't seen that, definitely watch that. That was
good.
awesome.
Kurt Russell, right?
He did an amazing Santa
That
Claus.
one was
Yeah.
really good, yeah.
Yeah. And then number 10, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. In the mixture of that, his brother-in-law that I now know, Christopher, said, oh, come on, Christmas Vacation has to be higher than 6. Haha, good list. Then Devon and Jenny Varnum came back later, says, while I do enjoy this movie, I prefer the version with Jim Parsons as Buddy. Hilarious. It's Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas, which is like an animated movie. Mickey Strickland said, number 1, my favorite movie. I love it. And that's it. A lot of you guys chimed in liking stuff on Instagram and Facebook.
Pretty good response for like one day.
It was one day. I didn't do a ton.
Did you do
I didn't do Twitter.
but you did Instagram, right?
No, I didn't because
I'll have
Laura. Okay, yeah.
Is it the same comment?
Is it Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do hers.
Okay. It says, oh man, Elf is my top 3 favorite Christmas movie. There's a ton of moments in the movie that I love, but a few of my favorites are when Emily asks if Buddy slept good and he says, yes, I got a full 40 minutes. I relate to that.
Yeah.
Also love when he's reading the book in his dad's office and keeps saying, Francisco over and over, and when he bursts in the meeting and says, I'm in love and I don't care who knows. She's like, there's a ton more, but I'll stop there.
Yes.
We didn't get any comments on Twitter. I didn't think we would, but I went in and because it's a good excuse to use a elf gif. So
Sure.
I just put something on Twitter.
There's tons of them.
So many good ones.
All right. Well, if that's all we have, we want to thank y'all for chiming in. We also want to thank Ricky Lyles for his contributions to our podcast and everything else going on. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. that you're as pumped for the Christmas season
Yes.
as we are.
Woo!
And to celebrate the Christmas season,
Holly jolly, holly jolly.
the next time this episode or this podcast comes out, we will have a return of an episode. Last year we did the Thanksgiving meal draft. Myself, Kyle, and Ricky. Ricky famously drafted Gravy #1
He did.
overall. Well, this year we've added Ashby.
Yeah, because gravy's something you put overall.
It's a utility,
That
yeah,
goes on the
exactly.
plate.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. He
did.
knows his food. Well, Ricky will be joining us for next week's episode, which will be the Christmas meal draft.
That's right.
And I'm super excited about this because I'm thinking themes, and I got to get y'all the list of categories that you got to fill in.
And I've got special family recipes.
Ooh,
So
interesting. I'm gonna steal those.
About so you better watch. Somebody will end up taking one
I
thing.
mean, if
I will call Ernie or
well, look. First of all, I'm the only person in my family that can make these recipes since my grandmother passed away. So good luck trying to. Get
Well, the
anyone
problem
to
is
reproduce them for you.
the problem is
But
it's
me.
not needing the entire recipe. We just need one thing out of that you can't have. So whatever the main part of that is, if they're like, I stole
turkey.
I stole turkey, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't make this now because it,
turkey.
So
not
if
saying
one
turkey.
of you drafts turkey,
You can't. Nobody else
then I
can take
can't
turkey.
have like stuffing that has turkey in it or whatever.
That's different. You can have stuffing, but you can't have stuffing and me have stuffing.
Okay.
Like one person gets stuffing and that's it.
And like
Okay.
if you wanted to draft cheesecake, you can't like turn around and someone will be like, "Well, I'm drafting pumpkin cheesecake." Like,
Yeah, it's
Right.
done.
All
Okay.
cheesecakes.
I still don't think this is going to be a problem because again, my family recipes are very unique. And
Well, I
specific.
figured they would be, but I'm just saying, like, it gets weird.
Good luck.
It gets weird when you base your whole meal around
Send
something
Lisa
and then
Brand
it's
an
all
email
gone.
tomorrow. Hey, what are
That's
some of
true.
your famous
Yeah.
recipes?
Right.
I need to know for something podcast related.
It's
That
for
It's-
school nurse reasons.
yeah, it's for.
I just want to make sure I'm not allergic.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my goodness. So thank y'all for joining us again. Stay as cool as the other side of the pillow. Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Oh,
And we'll
Chris, my
see
favorite
you-
quote. I didn't even say it.
And we'll see you
Hope you find your dad.
next week on the What podcast. Baby, it's cold
I
outside.
really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Gotta go away.
Son of a nutcracker!
Bye.